In this video, I'm going to be talking about my stem cell surgery part 2 and why it's important to be a patient. Hi guys, my name's Fern Lulham. I'm a motivational speaker, and on this channel I give you practical strategies and tips about how you can improve your mental and emotional health in any situation. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. I gotta say it is good to be back. I've had a few weeks when I haven't been around, and in this video I'm going to explain to you exactly why. Because I have had stem cell surgery from my mouth to my eye. And no, I didn't even mean for that to rhyme. Oh, it's been such a long time. Again, the creativity, it's just flowing out of me today. Welcome back. So in my last video, I talked about my stem cell surgery part 1. So that was the part where they took the stem cells from my mouth in order to take them to the lab and to grow them and to do whatever magical things that they do in the lab in order to prepare them to go into my eye. On December the 13th, that's what they did. They entered the amazing socket of my eye, and that is now where they are sitting and hopefully growing and morphing into my eyeball. I hope you're not eating dinner while you're watching this video. Put down the cake, move away from the edibles, because this might get a little bit gross. Now, I will leave the link to my previous video in the description below, so if you haven't checked that out yet, make sure you do because it will make much more sense. But to give you a quick catch up for those of you who've forgotten because it's been so long, basically, the idea of this surgery for me is to make my cornea clear. I have unhealthy cells on my cornea. The cornea is the surface of your eye, and in order for me to get healthier cells that will regenerate and grow in the future, and in order to give me clearer vision, I needed this surgery. As I mentioned, this was the second in a 2-part procedure. There was 3 weeks in between the 2 operations to give the cells time to grow and to flourish and to be perfect for my eyes, because let's face it, only the best will do. Now, in between times, I had to do something which half of you will find super cool and sciencey, and half of you will find just pure disgusting and gross. I had to give some blood. I've never given blood before, not that quantity of blood anyway. Part of the procedure relies on having plasma eye drops that you put into your eye following the operation that is your plasma. It's actually made from the plasma in your blood so that it goes back into your body and helps the healing process. It's amazing and mind-blowing, but please don't ask me all the ins and outs of it because I don't really understand it. I'm not a doctor. All I know is that I didn't come prepared. I hadn't made my body ready for it. I hadn't even eaten breakfast. So halfway through the procedure, I did feel a little bit like I was gonna faint. I didn't faint. I wasn't sick, but the option almost felt like it was there. Luckily, the nurses were trained, they knew what they were doing, and they laid me back, and all was well. I survived, and I lived to tell the tale. Oh, there was a close moment there. Now, the thing about this surgery in comparison to the last is that I can't really tell you a whole lot about what happened on the actual operating table, because at that point I was in a deep slumber. I was under general anaesthetic, so I was gone. I didn't know what was going on. To my friends, I have described this as the closest thing to time travel, because essentially you get put to sleep and then you wake up what you feel like is a second later, but hours have passed and stuff's happened to you in between that time that you would never know had happened. It's a very strange feeling, but quite a nice one in a way, because you didn't have to experience any pain. So the anaesthetist and the nurse took me down to the theatre. They were both very friendly. They were chatting to me as they were prepping me and getting me ready and sticking various needles and cannulas and God knows what else in my arm. I was fine. I wasn't too nervous. I'd had it done before. I knew that they knew what they were doing. I completely trusted them, and they made the experience very pleasant. I'm sure people have had all kinds of different experiences because it very much is based on how you're treated by the people that you're with. And that's why I always say that doctors and nurses make a huge difference to the way you feel about your surgery and the way you feel in general about what you're going to have done to you and even about yourself. I can't can't stress enough how they impact on our emotional and mental health. So having really good ones was a blessing to me. From start to finish, I couldn't fault them. The last thing I can remember is that they were talking about Christmas and various plans and things like that. And the next thing I remember, I was waking up and it was all over. And oh my God, I didn't want to wake up in that moment. That was the moment, it was almost like a Monday morning before work, where all you want to do is pretend you don't exist and hibernate for the rest of the day. I could not make my eyes open. And that feeling of not being able to wake up stayed with me for a long time. I was on the ward and I just remember wanting to sleep, and my parents arrived to see if I was okay, and I couldn't even make conversation. I couldn't even find the strength to ask how it had been. They'd seen the doctor and I wanted to know how everything had gone, but I was too tired. I just wanted to sleep. I was so exhausted. However, I did stay awake just long enough to hear that my consultant had told my parents that I had produced a lot of cells and that they'd covered my eye in the stem cells and that everything seemed to have gone very, very well, and the operation was over a lot quicker than they thought it would be, about half the time they thought it would take. So I'm guessing that was all a good sign, right? It was all going well, and I could just go back to sleep and everything would be fine. I tried to eat, but hospital food is probably worse than aeroplane food, and it's not a joy to have. Even buttered toast, which you wouldn't have thought they could go far wrong with, kind of tasted like cardboard or cement, and I found it really difficult to swallow it. I had to swallow it with water in the end, because the more I chewed, the more sticky and just like a massive ball of goop it turned into in my mouth. And then out of nowhere, it was the morning. It was the next day, and I was all raring to go. I was ready to go home, but of course it doesn't work like that. You have to wait for the pharmacy to get your medication. You have to wait to be checked over to make sure everything's all right. There's so much waiting involved in these operations, and that can be emotionally and mentally tiring as the operation itself. Still, many, many hours later, I arrived home very groggy, very feeling sorry for myself, and half of my face just being on shutdown. I couldn't really use it very much. My eye had a big shield over the top of it to protect it, and a lot of sticky tape. And when I say sticky tape, this stuff is the stickiest stuff you can imagine. It just gets everywhere. Then began perhaps the hardest week and a half, almost 2 weeks of my life. I didn't realise how hard that would be. It certainly isn't the most challenging operation that I've ever had, and I can tell you about other operations that I've had in the past, and so I thought this one would be relatively easy. But talking from a mental and emotional point of view, this one really, really hit hard. I essentially couldn't do anything for the next week. All I could do was lay in bed, and I basically had no social contact. I just about peered at my phone, which I probably shouldn't have done, really, because I'm trying to let my eye rest. Eyes are a really difficult thing to be operated on, and the reason for that is because if it was your foot, or even if it was your hand or your arm or any other part of your body, you could do something to distract yourself. You could do something to take your mind off it. But when it's your eye, it very much limits what you can possibly do. And when you do try and do something, it makes you just ridiculously tired because you're using that part of your body that you're supposed to not use. Essentially, it's like if something was wrong with your foot, you hopping about on that foot for any length of time, of course that's going to tire you out really, really quickly and probably isn't going to be good for your foot. From an emotional standpoint, that's a really hard thing, particularly because I'm a doer. I'm somebody who can't just sit around and be lazy and just not do anything. I want to be doing 100 million things at once. I want to be planning out my day, and I'm sitting there constantly thinking, oh, there's so much that I want to do right now and I can't do it. It's almost like when you're ill and all you can do is you sit in bed and you just think about all the things that you want to do and all the time you're wasting just by sitting here doing nothing. And this is where being a patient comes into play. I am a very impatient patient. I want to be over it already. I'll give myself a few hours, maybe even a few days. But once you get to the 4 or 5 day mark, I don't want to wait anymore. I want to do something by that point. And if I'm not better, if I'm not seeing any improvement, and I just feel just as rubbish as I did at the start, that's starting to concern me now. And even if somebody tells me, though, that's normal and you should feel like that and you should allow yourself to rest and all of those logical things that your friends tell you and you know they're right, you hate them for it because it's alright for them to say it. They don't have to do it. You have to do it, and it's really, really freaking hard. What I would say is if you do find yourself in that situation, do give yourself time to rest. And I know how frustrating it is. And especially if you're watching this and you're in a situation like that right now, and maybe you're watching this to pass the time. I know you're gonna hate me for saying it, but you do need this time. On the grand scheme of things, it's not that long. I know it feels like an eternity to you and you feel like a caged animal that is just so isolated and so impaired and helpless right now. And that's okay to feel like that as well. But give it that time, because you won't thank yourself if you don't. If you push yourself and if you try and do too much too soon, you will end up regretting it. And you may even do something that takes away from any of the benefits of the operation or of all that you've been through. You might just ruin it all by just trying to hurry along your recovery, and that just isn't worth it. You've been through enough. Don't spoil it now by being too hasty. I think sometimes other people don't help in these situations as much as they want to help. They probably do the opposite. I think for me it was very, very unfortunate that my operation was halfway through December, so I was going through this in the build up to Christmas. And getting closer and closer to Christmas, everyone of course is doing really fun things, they're really happy, you know, everyone's having a great time, they're dressing up, they're going out, they're going to parties, they're putting up decorations, there's millions of pictures of them in various lights, events, or putting up their trees, or whatever it is that they're doing. And that's so unfair because you can't join in with any of that. All you feel like doing is staying in your dark little pit of a room, and yet at the same time you're so jealous and you're so envious and begrudging of these people having an amazing time when you can't. And I think the other thing that makes that hard is that when people don't understand how much time these things can take, it can also add a burden to your load. Because often people will start asking you, so are you feeling better now? Are you seeing an improvement yet? Are things better for you? I'm personally going through this journey to improve things for myself, hopefully. Fingers crossed. People are so fiercely hopeful for me that I will succeed, which I am not telling anyone off for because it's lovely. It's so wonderful to have so many amazing people in my life that want me to do well and want the best for me in every single area. And yet, when people are asking me 2-3 days after my operation, so are you new? Are you fixed again now? It's so hard because I'm nowhere near. I haven't even recovered. I can't even see barely out of that eye at that point, let alone any improvement. I've actually gone back a step at this point. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on people because people start thinking, well, maybe I should be better by now. Maybe I should be seeing improvements. And it kind of freaks people out. So I guess the thing about that is just realize that you do need time. And just because other people don't always expect you to need time, and you don't always expect yourself to need so much time, you do. Your body needs time. Unfortunately, I know it's a hard thing to come to terms with, but it is the reality. We need time to heal. Just as with anything else, with anything emotionally, like I've talked about in the past, it doesn't just snap and everything's okay. Emotionally, we need time to get over things that have happened to us, bad things. And it's exactly the same physically, with operations or with accidents or with anything. We need time to heal and to let ourselves feel awful for some amount of time. I think for me, another thing that was very difficult was the fact that because it was my eye, I couldn't really cry. And I wasn't supposed to cry because if I cried, I'm gonna irritate my eye and make things more difficult. And of course, we all know that when you're told you can't do something, you want to do it even more simply for the fact that you can't. But when it's something like crying and you're in a hugely emotional state, for me, operations are just emotional anyway, just by default. I usually come home and have a good cry because my body's just been through something crazy and I feel different and I feel the weight of my disability or whatever you want to call it. I feel the weight of having this thing that other people don't have to think about or worry about. And often that can make me emotional. But then on top of that, having all of these feelings about other people being able to go out and have a great Christmas and me having to just sit in bed and not do anything, and all of these different things that I'm thinking about and worrying how I'm gonna look because maybe my eye will be all bloodshot and I'll look like I've been beaten up. And I know it all sounds stupid and superficial and so social media millennial brain, but that's what I have. That's the way I think, and that's the way a lot of us think, and we can't hate ourselves for that because we're only human. I think throughout this operation I felt the least human perhaps I've ever felt. At times I felt like I'm supposed to just be this machine that's supposed to just do what it's supposed to do, and it doesn't matter how much medication that takes, it doesn't matter how many eye drops, there were hundreds a day that takes. I just have to do it because I'm like some kind of robot. And I'm sitting there thinking, but I'm a human being, I'm a person, I have feelings. I have worries about what I'm missing out on and the person that I am and the kind of lifestyle that I'm leading and what all of this means for me. All of the implications of everything that I'm going through. And it's a lot to take on emotionally and mentally. It's just craziness. And that's the thing that often is not thought about in these situations. We just think about the physical. We think about, how's it gonna work? Is it gonna work? How long will it take to recover? And all of that stuff. But we don't think about, how am I gonna feel? And how's it gonna impact on my life? And how am I going to see myself following this operation? Because I am a whole person with a life and with hopes and dreams and desires just like everyone else. And all of those are affected by what I physically go through as much as my body is affected by those things. And we all are. And what I would encourage anyone in this situation to think about is the fact that that's natural. And it's okay for you to be down. And you have every reason to feel sad and to let yourself grieve a little bit, I suppose, for that. Because it's not easy. It really isn't. And so don't be too hard on yourself. And that's another reason that you need time. Because you don't just need time to let yourself heal and recover well, but you need time emotionally for yourself, to give yourself that space and to let yourself feel all of those feelings and to let them in and to then just take a deep breath and let them out again. And I promise you, as you start feeling better, as you start healing and recovering physically, your emotions will do the same. They will follow suit. And there were points where I just felt like I'm never going to recover from this. I felt so bad that I thought, how am I ever going to get out of this? It's kind of like when you have the worst cold and you think, I'm never going to be normal again. But you do. You know, it does get there eventually. Even in your darkest times when you feel like it might not, you will get there. So don't lose that hope. Don't lose that excitement for what is to come, because this isn't the end. You just need to get through this hard time and then overcome it, and there will be something new. And that goes for any situation. I feel like that's a much deeper, broader metaphor than I meant it to be. But it's true. It's true in every situation. As cliche as it is the truth. I was also on medication, which completely affected my mood. As you will know, medication always has a whole array of glorious side effects, and I was on steroids to stop inflammation in my eyes. Quite a big dosage of steroids. And so all of a sudden, 1 minute I would be really down in the dumps and hating life and hating everyone and feeling like I just wanted to tear my own face off. And in the next moment, I would be laughing hysterically at something that on a normal day I wouldn't even smirk at. It was insane. It was one of those complete spectrums of mood where I felt really low, really high, and everything in between. And there was no reason for it, essentially. It was just the chemicals in my brain doing strange things, which made me think a lot about emotions, and maybe I'll make a whole different video about that because it was really interesting. That played havoc with my mood entirely. And I'm very glad that I'm not on those tablets anymore. So there you go. That is the story of stem cell surgery number 2, the putting into the eye part of the surgery. If you have any questions about it, if there's something that I haven't covered, or there's something that you're wondering about, you think I've missed a part out that you'd like to know more about, please do let me know in the comments below. And also, have you been in this situation or a similar situation? It doesn't have to be an operation, it could just be an illness, or it could even be just something else that you've been waiting to get over. Maybe a breakup, maybe something that's hit you hard emotionally or mentally that you've just been waiting to overcome, and it's felt like you never ever will. Let me know about it. When have you had to be really patient and take your time and allow yourself that space to breathe? And what have you done to help yourself in that time? What have you done to relieve those feelings of just wanting to get over it and be okay already? Let me know, because I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on that, and I'll definitely be sharing my thoughts on that in a future video. Give this video a thumbs up if you've ever had a period in your life when you've just wanted time to speed up and go faster so that you can get on to whatever is coming next. And as always, if you're interested in learning more about how to improve your mental and emotional health, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a thing. I've got some really exciting plans for 2019, and I'd love to hear from you and find out what you would like to see from this channel in the coming year. Would you like to hear more about my sight condition? Would you like to hear more about a certain emotional issue, relationships, friendships, work? What area interests you the most? I'd be really interested to know what you want to hear about this year, and I shall respond appropriately to your needs and wishes. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your day as though it were the first hot meal you've eaten since a nasty old cold took your taste away. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye! In this video, I'm going to be talking... Good start. Make sure you subscribe. Ooh, I gotta say it, it's good. And, sorry. Also, if you, make sure you subscribe so that you... If you're interested in learning more about your mental and... Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Speak to you soon. Okay. Done. 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 That's a wrap.